Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, the Falcons just are going to have to simply prove it.
And a healthy Braves team is definitely a dangerous Braves team.
And last but not least, and for the culture, how much are you willing to pay for a hot dog? We'll talk about all that next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. It is ATL Day Ones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Now, T, we know how traditionally this Atlanta Falcons team has been covered with all of the moves that they made in free agency. And, of course, making a splash in the first round with the 8th overall pick with Bijan Robinson and how all the attention has come with that. But it doesn't seem like that has changed the narrative as far as what the Falcons will do in 2023. So much so that Adam Shine of CBS Sports Network, T, said recently, quote, "Don't be surprised when the Atlanta Falcons shock the world and make the playoffs this season." Why does he have to kind of qualify like that, T? Like, why does that always seem to be the case when it comes to talking about the Atlanta Falcons and what they're going to do in the upcoming season?
Well, you know, I will find a musical analogy for anything. So as I was reading that quote and listening to him say that over and over again, I thought about Too Short. Why you got to say it like that? I mean, just I don't understand.
Like that. I go to a
no,
different
not
genre.
that. Not the No, the Too Short with the attitude.
Yes.
You got to say it like that. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Because I don't understand why it had to be like. Why did you have to go so hard in the paint on the shock piece? This is a team that, remember, even though yes, you can officially call last year's team, and for that matter, Jarvis, maybe in the season before, overachievers. But
Right.
The team last year was an overachiever that up until about the last 2 or 3 weeks was mathematically in the playoff picture. That was a team that won't look anything like this team looks this season. Like you said, whether you go from the top of the draft on through the middle of the draft, or whether you go through free agency acquisitions, some upgrades in the trenches, some folks that can get after the quarterback, all of those pieces that everybody had been asking for, they've been put in place. So I don't understand the word shock, but I will agree with you and say it seems that the Falcons fans have to hear that a little too much. And I'm not really sure where that's coming from, especially because last year, I would say the path to the postseason was about the same as this year, right? I think the path to it, the easiest path for the Falcons to me is to just win the division outright, as opposed to trying to get a wild card berth, if you will. So if they were on their way last year and the other 3 teams did not get exponentially better, help me to understand why it would be such a shock to the world if the Falcons made the playoffs.
I don't think it would be a shock because this division has been bad for a past couple of years, especially, since Tom Brady has, gone down into retirement and we think that we won't ever see him put on a NFL jersey anymore. More than likely won't be the case, but, I had to throw that little shot in there just for good measure. But I think, let me just say this. I've never been a guy who would look at what teams do in free agency, say automatically that they're going to be contenders. I will never do that because at the end of the day, you got to put the pads on and make it work once they're out on the field. However, when you look at this team and what they've done in the past couple of years, they've gone 14-20 with, how can I say this nicely, a riff-raff kind of roster, you know what I'm saying? A lack of talent. Let me put it like that. They've gone into both those seasons with a lack of talent, with expiring contracts, overpaid players, guys who are got fat and happy. I don't have to name his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. So, all of those things, and basically just say, you know what, we're gonna strip it down to the bone, almost, so to speak, and then we're gonna take our lumps in our first couple of years, and then once we get some money to spend, then we're gonna do something. So I think that if you're able to win 7 games with all of that, what I just listed, in 2 consecutive years, I really feel like with a roster that I feel like it's probably going to be, if I could put a percentage on it, 50% better than what it was this previous year. I'm giving Arthur Smith the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving Terry Fontenot the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to see how it plays out once it comes September. But if you're a national host, you have to look at what this team has done in free agency. You have to look at what they done in the draft, and just from an offensive standpoint, it's because what we hear all the time, this is the offensive league. You got to score points and all that stuff. But when they like follow along that protocol by drafting 3 guys on the offensive side of the football in 3 consecutive years, and I'm talking to myself, I was like, I didn't necessarily agree with it, but that's what they've done. And I think that, for an offensive-minded head coach, a really good play caller, a guy who always put his guys in position to succeed, like, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if we're talking about, I think I've seen some numbers, on the over-unders for upcoming season at 8.5. I'm taking that 8.5 all day. 9 games? Absolutely, I think that the Falcons can win 9 games.
Yeah, I don't quite understand the shock piece, because I go back to, and hey, stack the deck. Let's look at, because everyone's on paper at this point, everyone's undefeated. So stack the deck. Let's see what the free agency class for the Falcons looks like versus the other 3 teams in the NFC South. Let's look at what the draft class looks like for the Falcons versus the other 3 teams in the NFC South. I would venture to say I would put them in the same place, but there are spaces, and we've talked about this before, there are spaces and places where the Falcons have really still upgraded, and not so much just upgraded against what the rest of the league, or the division is going to put on the field, but they've upgraded from the talent levels they had last year. So if we're looking at that, I think we've even joked and said, my goodness, a 36-year-old Calais Campbell had a quarter of the sacks of the Falcons all by himself last year. When you can say things like that, or David Onyemata right there as well, those are the rationales that we would give as an example of why they could be the front runners in what you could call a division of mediocrity.
Yeah, I think that, overall, like, this team is going to be better than what it was last year. And I don't think that should not say shock the world. And then if they're better than they were last year, they're more than likely they're going to be in contention based off of how this division has gone in the past couple of years. Like, they're going to be in contention to win the division. So, hey, that means you can get into the playoffs. So I don't think that would be shocking at all. So I think, some of these national media types kind of do a little research before you start going out there and saying certain things, because it just sounds weird at the end of the day. But speaking of weird, how about this? The Boston Celtics, they end up not being able to pull it out against the 76ers. Obviously, the 76ers were up for most of that game. And when you think about the issue, Joel Embiid dealing with his injuries and everything like that, and then being back into the fold, and he was kind of struggling some, but James Harden came through in the clutch. But what does that mean for the other side, the Jaylen Browns and the other folks and the Jason Tatums of the world? What does that mean for them as far as not being able to close out a team like the Philadelphia 76ers?
It says that the Sixers and Doc Rivers looked at the blueprint from Quinn Snyder and the Hawks and said, hey, we'll take that blueprint, and no offense to the Hawks, but we'll take that blueprint with a higher level of talent overall, meaning full Sixers rosters to full Hawks roster, and we're actually going to beat them at their own game and potentially beat them in this entire series. Because if you think about it, the Hawks, other than maybe one game, Jarvis, I would say were competitive the entire 6-game series. They just maybe didn't have enough guns to be able to pull it out to even get it to game 7. The Sixers, to me, had those guns to be able to get this to game 7 before the series even started. But now I'm like, oh, not just get it to game 7. They might have the guns to win it, because, again, if you take the Quinn Snyder blueprint and you start understanding how to Jason Tatum out of the game, like when they got him to 7 points, or how to get Derek White in early foul trouble, or how to get Jaylen Brown to be a little more passive. Even he admitted post-game that, our own Wheeler's own needed to step his game up a little bit in terms of assertiveness. If you can get those key players to do that again and again and again, and in the meantime, James Harden, you have the game of your life when you need to. But sometimes you'll need to fall back, and Joel Embiid, you assert yourself and then get all of those others around you. I mean, to me, Jarvis, that's a series. That is a series, but that's a series more so because, again, the Hawks may have been the reason that's a series, because I just honestly think Quinn Snyder gave Doc Rivers a little bit more of the blueprint to say, hey, here is how you get this team out of their element. And once you get them out of their element and you get them to thinking about their game and double thinking and not playing as a team, playing some hero ball, being out of sync, you got them.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of exposing Joe Mazzulla as well.
Because, oh yeah, that's why I said Quinn Snyder gave the blueprint.
Yeah. You can say that he's a really good coach. He's a really good coach. He's stepping in and doing his thing. But yeah, they got Jason Tatum. They got a lot of good doggone players on that doggone squad. So yeah, it doesn't take much for them to be in Eastern Conference contenders like they are.
Right.
And let me take it a little step further though, T. I like what you mentioned. Like you said, the 76ers might take this series. Let's just say the 76ers take this series, right? It's tied up 2-2 right now. So, hey, pretty much even 0-0. If they 76ers beat the Boston Celtics, could you see this being Jaylen Brown's last swan song? And you already know what I'm about to ask next.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
Should the Hawks go fervently to Boston and say, hey, man, give him a pitch to say, hey, come on down here. We'll take care of the money, and let us worry about the rest of it.
Indeed. In case anyone was wondering whether or not teams in the NBA are assertive when it comes to making changes or overhauling the system, the shocker of, and I'm of course being dramatic, but the shocker of the century, Mike Budenholzer gets fired by the Bucks. Nobody saw that coming. In fact, I sent up a prayer for Hawks Nation saying,
really quickly.
Y'all better be glad that job was not open. Like, man, now, I mean, we thought Tony Ressler and company, we thought Landry Fields and company, we thought they were looking like geniuses before. Now to know they have Quinn Snyder,
yes, that is a
and that Bucks opening is coming. But more importantly, Mike Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, and there's the third one. I apologize that I'm forgetting, but four coaches who last coached these teams to championships. Only Steve Kerr has a job. Now, I do think even if they go to 7 and they lose to the Lakers, Steve Kerr is going to keep his job. Don't get me wrong. But there's something to be said about 3 of your last 4 head coaches of the title-winning teams don't have a job right now. Now, the reason I'm stating that is because just like you might be looking to get rid of a coach, a lot of times teams are looking to blow things up and say, okay, you know what? This isn't working. We tried it for 2 years past the time that Jaylen Brown wanted to part ways, and it's still not working. I also think, honestly, Jarvis, if the Celtics get to the Eastern Conference Finals but don't make it back to the NBA Finals, I also think he's gone too. And if he is, I don't see any reason not to bring him back home, or at least get yourself in the conversation, because let's just be honest. As much as DeAndre Hunter can be that guy, Jaylen Brown has been that guy.
Yeah.
So if you can get Jaylen Brown, you go ahead and go past that luxury tax. You go ahead and give the Celtics whatever they want. Get him.
Yeah. Go get him. I mean, there's nothing else to add to that, but to that particular statement, T. But when you think about what the Braves have been doing and how when they get healthy, T, it is a scary team. And we'll talk about all of that next. But first, we got to talk about FanDuel.com. You're talking about how more than likely, if the Celtics lose, Jaylen Brown might be on the way out. So guess what? If you're trying to find some odds, FanDuel has all the odds right there waiting just for you. And I will put some money on it because I want to see Jaylen Brown come to the Hawks. How about that? I'm just going to go out there and put it out in the atmosphere because we need all of that down there at State Farm Arena. So guess what? For all you new people, they got something right there just for you. They got the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 if your first bet doesn't win. Now, I hope my bet win if I bet on Jaylen Brown going to the Hawks. But if I don't, they got me covered right there at FanDuel. They got the money lines, the over-unders. Everything you need is right there. So especially with the baseball season going on, the Braves are doing their thing. They're catching fire. So they have all the things right there. You trying to figure out when Ronald Acuna going to hit his next home run or how many RBIs he's going to get. They can bet the over-under and the money lines as well. Now, what I want you to do, head to fanduel.com/lockedon today and take advantage of the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 but that's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. And go to FanDuel and mess with fanduel.com/lockedon because it is the official sportsbook partner of the Major League Baseball.
The Braves continue to be at the top of their game, of course, tops in the National League and second best record in the entirety of Major League Baseball. And Jarvis, it's so important to mention that because this is a team that is now up 7 games on both the Mets and Marlins, both of whom they've played and beaten them, gotten those series, got the sweep over the Marlins. And then you come back and you start the homestand with a very good Baltimore Orioles team, a sneaky good team that a lot of people are just, it's kind of under the radar, right?
Right.
And they were able to bounce back from losing the first game and winning those last 2. But boy, did I really like the Sunday win. The reason being because, Jarvis, we got to see everything that you and I have talked about needing to see and wanting to see from the Braves. A 3-2 win in extras. Well, Michael Harris II hits a double for a walk-off, right? So it doesn't have to be the long ball. You can get a double to get a win if that's what it takes. Bryce Elder, even in a losing effort, we got what we needed to see out of him as well, right? And then you talk about the defense. We were very excited for Braves country to be able to say Orlando Arcia is back. That is so powerful because we say it all the time that the Braves are a deep team and that Alex Anthopoulos is always thinking one step ahead. But there's nothing like a healthy Braves team because when they are healthy, they are dangerous, Jarvis, and especially on defense in a close game like the game we saw Sunday. Let's talk first about that. How important was it to see the likes of what RC was able to do as well as Ronald Acuna Jr.?
Yeah, I think Arcia is huge, right? Because when you look at and watch some of the guys, in their post-game comments, not necessarily, downing Vaughn Grissom, but like just knowing to have a guy in that spot and know exactly what to expect is what Austin Riley said. Like, you know what to expect. You know what you're going to get from him. And that is a powerful arm. He's going to make all the routine plays, make them look easy, and he's going to be right there and do what he needs to do. And, hopefully he gets back to hitting the ball like he was before he went down. With the microfracture that he had. So all of those things kind of come into place, and he started to it got me thinking, T, like, based off of where this team is, and Uncle Ron started talking about that. This is Ron Washington. He started talking about it as well, just like, given where this team is right now, the veteran-laden team, the contender for a World Series team that they are right now, they don't need any mishaps. They don't need, especially at that position, because that's one of the most important positions on the field, T. So when you have all of those things coming into play, and you kind of understand where they say, okay, Orlando Arcia didn't have a rehab assignment. All right, cool. That's fine. But as long as you're okay, he said, I'm all right. I'm ready to roll. I don't need a rehab assignment. Yeah. I'm ready to roll. Those are the type of decisions that you can make when you have veterans on the team, when you're trying to contend for a World Series. And people understand that these games early on, I know that people may say, it's 162 games, they don't really mean anything, but they mean something when you're trying to contend for a World Series.
Yeah, and sometimes we all fall in love with the shiny toy, right? And Vaughn Grissom and Michael Harris II, they both came out all guns blazing, and Spencer Strider as well, came out all guns blazing. So, of course, we were thinking that Vaughn Grissom is probably the heir apparent to Dansby Swanson. That just makes for that's logical. However, What's also logical is this. I remember a teacher telling me this once. Everybody can't make A's. Everybody in the class can't make A's, and it's all good. That doesn't mean that the debate team or any other competitive group can't win if there's somebody who's making B's. or even somebody who's making C's, because we need all the players, because a lot of times those C guys, that's your steady person, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes your B person is your steady person. I think Orlando Arcia is kind of that guy who maybe falls under the radar sometimes because he wasn't the shiny new toy, but he is the most consistent guy. And I love the fact that you pointed that out, that consistency is what wins you games just as much as the shiny toy. And sometimes you got to kind of send the shiny toy back because maybe it's still a little rough around the edges. Maybe it's still a diamond in the rough. And granted, they made the decision to keep Braden Shoemake up on the 26-man roster, which, hey, that's a encouraging sign for him. But also, I love the fact that Vaughn Grissom has shown a lot of maturity and a lot of patience and understanding that, hey, until they see what they want to see, maybe I have to go back down to AAA, and, Arcia is ready and available. Also, man, was it exciting to see Rasiel Iglesias back? I mean, perfect innings. Yeah. Striking him out, just looking so strong, so steady, so confident. And that goes back to the Braves don't have to rush anyone back. So if they didn't feel like Arcia was ready, if they didn't feel like Iglesias was ready, they wouldn't have rushed him back. But Iglesias showed us big time just how much he was ready in this entire series. Just lights out once again. I mean, literally pitched 2 perfect innings, 2 strikeouts. He's just that guy.
Yeah, that's the most encouraging part, right? Like, not only Orlando Arcia getting back and giving us that consistency that we need defensively for the Atlanta Braves, but like solidifying and locking up the back end of that closer role, and moving AJ Minter and back into a role where I feel like everybody's would be a little bit more comfortable with. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think like it just looks so easy for him. And just even when he came in on Saturday and he was, coming in and closing the door, and then coming in on Sunday and making sure that the lead stay tied, so they can go into extra innings. So I think all of those things kind of like make you look at it from a standpoint of like, all right, you got your guy back, and this is the guy that we saw last year. And that's one of the things that you got to always kind of take in consideration too. Like, those expectations got to change a little bit when guys are coming off injury, because you never know how it might respond. Because we've seen Kyle Wright. Oh, yeah, he's fine. Everything is good. He had the cortisone shot. He'll be good. No more pain.
No more information.
And no more information. And, like, here we go. We're right back at it again. Right back at square one. So, for him to come out and give us those 2 perfect innings like he did, I feel like the Braves are really going to start to cook now, because you know exactly who's coming in and you know exactly what he's going to do when he does, and that's going to close the door.
And speaking of cooking, Michael Harris II, again, he gets the walk-off double. He gets the Braves to the win yesterday. But what I loved about it was the swag he showed. He was, and I'm proud of myself and how I'm going to say this. He was so Atlanta. In his post-game presser, he said, quote, "I was having some good at-bats all game. So to see them walk Ozuna and want to have to face me, it kind of put a fire in my you-know-what. I got up there, first pitch, and tried to hit something hard, and I did. I said, Jarvis, this is the kind of swag. This is the kind of don't mess with me. Don't come for me when I didn't send for you. I love it." And then all of it at the end of the game with all of it's and the reason I say this is because that is the kind of confidence that you want to see in your team, up, down, successful, failing, whatever, staying on top and believing, but we're that team and I'm that guy. That's what you have to see. I believe also we love everything else that we're seeing with the Braves, but one of the reasons that this also works is because, Jarvis, they deliver. So when you see Acuna Jr. showing us, what are we, 5 weeks into the season, and we've already seen all 5 tools from him, and he brings that. So to me, that's a critical component as well, because that's the kind of thing that when you get into a hole, for example, whether it's a scoring hole or you've had some miscues or errors, that's the kind of thing you need to see in order to say, yeah, this team will bounce back regardless.
Yeah, like that confidence and consistency. Those are the overall theme here on ATL Day Ones. Yeah, I think that those guys, we know what they're going to bring to the table. It's just a matter of them just remaining healthy, and like over 162 game season. I mean, it's kind of, you're being a little optimistic, more so, expecting them to be healthy the entire time. But when they're not out there, they have some viable guys that can come in and fill in the gaps until they come back and get this bad boy back rolling.
Yeah, speaking of confidence and consistency, we are confident that you guys are going to keep coming back here each and every day. Why? Because you've been consistent for over a year, and we appreciate you stopping by ATL Day Ones. You guys are with us on YouTube. We appreciate you. I went out to an event this weekend, saw one of our fans. He said, hey, thanks for doing what you guys do. Keep on doing it. So thank you, Coach Eddie. We appreciate the support. And don't forget to go out and tell some friends, because not only can you catch us on YouTube, or not only can you download us wherever you download your podcast, but we got a little something cooking with Sirius XM that you guys need to definitely be aware of. So yeah, ATL Day Ones and our Locked On Sports Atlanta family, and really the whole Locked On Sports Network, doing big things, and we're doing it because of you, our everydayers.
Absolutely. But T, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down on the show. Today is no different. So, you know, T, like, I'm the type of guy where when it comes to food, I'll be willing to pay for it if it's really good. So there's this restaurant up in New York called Misha, and I think that's how I pronounce. You know, if it's not, please forgive me. There's a restaurant that goes by the name of Misha that has a hot dog. The hot dog has dry-aged brisket and pork, and it's 9 inches long, so it's a little girthy, and you know, and it's 8 ounces, so it's about a half a pound. You know, so it's, and then, you know, the guy who actually had it, you know, said, hey, you wouldn't be, you know, talked about in a bad way if you ate it with a fork. But the thing costs $29, T. Would you drop the 30-piece for one hot dog?
Oh, God. God, no. You're talking about the person who pulled up on the picnic and was looking for the hot dog Saturday for the free. So just no. Like, that's just foolishness to me. I don't even have anything else to say.
Right. All right. Wow. That, I mean, I'm not shocked. I know how you get down, T. But for me, I think I'll at least try it once. I probably have to do it by myself because I know my wife will probably look at me like I'm crazy.
See?
Why are you spending $30 on a doggone hot dog? It has brisket in it, though.
Are we going to split it 4 ways? That's what she would
I'll be
say.
all that by myself. I'm gonna hold it down. I'm hold it down with that one. One more story before we get out of here. T. You got to talk about this one now. Like, so, you know me, when it comes to certain things, I don't like paying for. So, you know, the whole, you know, thing with Atlanta and, you know, with the parking ticket situation, you know, how that was just going crazy for a long time, right? So what started to come with that, though, was the booters people, the boot people were going crazy, dropping boots on folks' cars. So apparently there is two young ladies who two sisters. I go and keep it a buck. Two sisters. They go by the name of the Boot Girls, where they will come to you, T, if you have a boot on your car, and they will take the boot off the car for you for the low price of $50. Now, for those of you who don't know and haven't had to pay that fee before, that is an excellent deal. That is an excellent deal because, you know, they start off at $75, but, you know, those people be going $125, $150. Like, I've even seen people have to pay a couple $100, you know, to get the boot taken off their car. So, like, how about this, T? Like, basically, we have a Robin Hood situation, basically saying, like, you know what? All you predatory boot folks out here dropping boots on folks' cars all over the city, like, y'all got some competition now.
It's like when the system was hacked and all those parking tickets went away because God don't like ugly.
Right.
Y'all out here ticketing everything for everybody for every reason. Well,
oh my gosh, man.
What? Hey, girls, hey. There are some people out here who will appreciate you. Now, I, an upstanding citizen who abides by the law, would not necessarily do such a thing. But if you all out there, our everydayers, decide to do it, we understand.
Yes, like, yeah. And then, of course, you know, you have the police officers basically saying, well, you know, you can catch a couple of charges, you know, by theft and, you know, and all this stuff. You come up with these keys. He's not saying it's illegal to have a key to open the things, but, you know, once you do that, you know, this is what you can potentially face. Yeah. Hey, man, look, Boot Girls,
Yeah.
Salute.
Get your hustle
Salute
on.
to y'all. Yeah. Salute to y'all, man. You know, I ain't helping the good folks, man. You're like, yeah, and making a little change on the side as well. I ain't got no problem with that at all. We live in a capitalistic society, right? It's just when it applies to certain folks, you know, people start to get a little upset. Well, wait a minute. I don't want to get into all of that, but y'all know what I mean. Y'all know what I mean. You also know what you mean by making sure you guys rock with us each and every day, our everydayers. We appreciate you guys and making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Why don't you make sure you go ahead and continue to check us out and, you know, drop a comment in the comments box. Hey, I'm an everydayer here, Jarvis. Hey, I'm an everydayer here, Tenitra. You know, I'm rocking with y'all each and every day. Give me a shout out. We'll give you a shout out. All you got to do is drop a comment in the comment box. We got you. We're going to take care of you. We already got one invite to the cookout. You know, we're looking for more as it gets warmer. We're going to be looking where the cookout is. We'll pull up. I'm telling you. All you got to do is just come correct. ATLday1s@gmail.com. Drop that. You know, we're RSVP and all that stuff. We, you know, we'll get suited and booted. That's how we do. So we appreciate you guys for rocking with us. But, you know, before we get out here, I always got to make sure that you guys don't do anything else for the rest of your lives. Like, this is real deep. This is real, like, this is important. If you don't do anything else, make sure you guys share love, show love, most importantly, spread love. Happy Monday, folks.